Hey everybody, welcome back to Budapest. Now you might have heard a lot about the election here, how critical it is, how important it is. And you'll have heard in the Western media and in the EU lots about Viktor Orban, how bad he is, this big bad boy, long-time political activist, anti-communist, a man of, great political experience. But you won't have heard that much about his opponent, this man called Peter Magyar. Well, it just so happens I've been doing a bit of digging into Mr. Magyar and have discovered some things that I think are very interesting about this relative unknown. And it's interesting that in the EU media, the British media and the American press, you're not hearing that much about Magyar. And maybe there's a reason, and maybe these are some of the reasons. Magyar is really a political nobody. He's not really somebody who's ever achieved anything on his own merit. He was married to the Hungarian Minister of Justice, a very prominent, politician in the Fidesz party, which Magyar was also a member of. Now, they were married. They got divorced back in 2023. And during that divorce, it was revealed that Magyar, Peter Magyar, this darling of the EU, the man they say is going to completely reform Hungary, it was revealed that he was regularly battering his wife, Judith Varga, this very experienced, very competent politician. He'd been beating her, using alcohol, using drugs. And this was in police reports at the time. So the man's a wife beater. He'd been battering his wife, a terribly tumultuous marriage. He was known as a party boy, lots of cocaine, lots of other women, and lots of allegations. Some of the stuff online, of course, is radically dramatized, but the stuff about him beating his wife, the Minister for Justice, and the fact that he was really despised in Viktor Orban's party as a man who was a grifter, who was clinging onto the coattails of this very, very competent woman who, unknown to everybody else, he'd been battering and beating. So he's a wife beater. And it doesn't end there. More and more interesting, deeper and deeper it goes. Magyar, after the divorce and during the divorce, allegedly, according to people I've discussed who are very close to this situation, he engaged in what is essentially insider trading. He'd been appointed to the board of a company called Opus, all because of his relationship with his wife. And because of the divorce, and he knew what was going to come out about his beating of his wife and his abuse of his family, he needed to get rid of shares, but he did it on the basis of already being on another board in one of the banks or financial institutions that he was also involved with. So he did this trade. He made millions of Hungarian forint on this deal. It just adds another layer to this guy. And why haven't you heard about any of this in the Western media, in the English-speaking media? Nobody seems to want to talk about this. Nobody seems to want to talk about it, particularly in the EU, where Magyar is being given this billing as, the hero that's going to roll into town and clean up town. It doesn't seem to me like he's capable of cleaning much up. It seems to me that he's, pretty greasy, pretty grimy boy. There's more. Now, it's unusual, right, that his political career only began after all of this was exposed, basically, right? And how did he begin his political career? Another really edifying indication of who this man is. He secretly records his own wife, allegedly to expose corruption in Fidesz. He, a guy who's basically insider trading, had been battering his wife, whipping her with a belt, according to police reports, is going to suddenly start to expose corruption in the party that had given him everything he had. He was willing to publish secret recordings of his own wife and the mother of his own children. This is the guy Ursula von der Leyen says is going to rescue Hungary from Viktor Orban. Viktor Orban, who they say is corrupt, dangerous, madman. There ain't no evidence like this about Orban that I can see. So Magyar has kind of demonstrated again and again that he's a man willing to do anything for money and for power. But the EU doesn't seem to have a problem with that. It seems that no crime is unforgivable when it comes to wanting to control what's going on in Hungary. And this is where it gets even more interesting. Magyar then, as he became more and more well known, and by the way, he was completely accepted by this opposition, by this EU-backed opposition, despite the fact that they knew everything that I've just told you about this man. They backed him. The EU, the NGOs, all backed him, despite the fact they knew this. Now, when he became better known and became the leader of this party, he started to date this kind of famous interior designer, a lady called Evelyn Vogel here in Hungary. Now, she as well joined the list of people who alleged he was a very abusive man, and that, the relationship had collapsed on the basis of that. Then he accuses her, sorry about the noise, he then accuses her, get this, of recording him illegally with a spy necklace. The guy who'd recorded his own wife, okay, the mother of his own children, to better his fake political career, is then accusing his next relationship, which had collapsed because of the same abuse, same drug use, same alcohol issues, violence. He's accusing this lady, Miss Vogel, of secretly recording him. It's absolutely insane. Again, the darling of the EU. Remember this. This is really interesting. And in true Magyar style, the woman that he'd accused of recording him secretly in a honey trap by a spy necklace, I wonder where she got that idea from, probably from Magyar himself. The woman that he accused of that, he was then found to have gone to a party full of cocaine, a sex party, drug party, was what the headline said, check it out, where he admitted he'd gone to have sex with this woman, but he didn't take any of the drugs. The man who's known around the town as a drug user, a heavy drinker, a party boy, he didn't touch the drugs. No, that was everybody else. Kind of like Zelensky in Ukraine. Everyone else is corrupt, not me. So Magyar does this, and this is recorded. So he demonstrates yet again this capacity to let his own urges, let's say, get the better of him. And this again is the man that's been peddled as the safe pair of hands when it comes to what's happening in Hungary, what's happening here. A country that's exceptionally vulnerable to external pressures from Ukraine. This guy's backed by Ukraine, and he's backed by the EU. Really interesting stuff, right? So we're kind of 2 days out from the actual election, from the vote itself, here in Budapest, here in Hungary. And it just seems that a man like Magyar is not the safe pair of hands that the EU are telling you he is. And the evidence, which I've just showed you, would suggest that, right? This is not a man that you can trust to lead a country in a very precarious situation regarding energy. He's a man that makes a lot of shit up, okay? Check it out. I mean, he even suggested that Viktor Orban was about to launch drone attacks on Hungary to pretend it was the Ukrainians. I mean, of course, none of this has happened. None of it has happened at all. So you got to ask yourself several questions here, okay? Who is this man? Where did he come from? What kind of human being is he? Well, we know he's the kind of man that whips his wife with a belt. And this is the darling of the liberals. Beats the shit out of his wife with a belt. Uses cocaine, goes to parties, very violent and aggressive in front of his children. Yeah, a real hero for the EU. Watch this space, guys.